This is round 7, last round of day 1 here, and we're still playing Historic. I'm still playing Green Black Food, and I'm up against fellow Simon Görtzen from Germany. Fun fact, Zachary Keeney, who's on my team, thought throughout the entire testing process that I was Simon Görtzen, because my online name was just a Tomb Simon on Discord. Well, I'm not. I'm in fact not Simon Görtzen. I'm an individual, Zach. I'm an individual, okay? But, regardless, I'm up against Simon here, who is playing Blue-Red Phoenix. And this is the most popular deck in the field, if you don't count all the blue-white decks together. And definitely like what you want to try and beat with the food deck. Especially like if you play main deck Soul Guide Lantern, which basically all the food decks do, the Phoenix matchup is quite favored for black-green, though you can still lose it. The easiest way to lose this matchup is through Stormwing Entity, which is not present in Simon's deck. Instead, he's choosing to play this card, Frenzied Geist Blaster, which I've not seen in any other Phoenix lists, except for like Dominic Görtzen, his brother, played also the same list. Which I think makes you possibly better in the mirror and against control. Not really sure, but it's like, it's a 2-2 with prowess. Okay, we're interested in that, but not quite powerful enough by itself. When it comes into play, if there's 20 more instant and sorcery cards in your deck, which there is, you can discard a card from your hand, and then you get to seek out an instant sorcery card. So like you basically get to draw an instant sorcery if you discard a card. So you can just play this turn 2, which is often a dead turn for the Phoenix deck, and just discard the Phoenix and draw a spell instead. That's really powerful. Like lets you curve out better, and then like it just makes you a bit more aggressive in that way, and that's really nice. But it's a huge round creature, so I can just block with my cat and sacrifice it to the oven, and then like it doesn't get through. So I am ecstatic to see Frenzied Geist Blaster instead of Storming Entity. It also like the thing that makes this really good is with Arc Black Phoenix, but I do have main decks Soul Guard Lanterns. So overall, yeah, this card is just definitely gonna make the matchup easier for me. Things that might make the matchup harder though is that there's 4 Kraken Drakes in the post-board game, so I have to be aware of those. And we do also see these like Pillar of Flames that Simon did very well with in the last championship. He also played for Phoenix last time, so definitely not. It's abated with that, so definitely not surprised to see him back on this deck here. So anyway, this is Blue-Red Phoenix against Food. And let's just see how it goes. Alright, so I opened up with a really good hand here. I have my Lantern, which is like, just swings the matchup a lot in the game once. Because you really, like the way that the Phoenix decks wins is just by having a huge swath of flyers getting in the air in like 1 or 2 attacks. And if you can like disrupt their Dragon Rage channelers and their Phoenixes, then that really matters a lot. So right now, I have a decision already. Normally you'd think, well, I can just play on my Lantern and my Ravenous Squirrel, and that's kind of nice. And then set up for like a Deadly Dispute next turn on like a Colony Garden, and I get to grow the Squirrel, and so on. In this matchup, Squirrel is one of your better cards. It's another reason why this matchup is pretty good for Food, is that the Squirrel is hard to kill with damage-based removal. So, but it is very easy to kill if it's just a 2-2. So what you really want to try and set up is make sure that you play the Squirrel, that you hold on to the Squirrel until you can make it a 3-3 without paying too much cost for it. Because once it's a 3-3, it's so much harder to kill, especially when you have a Lantern lying around, so you can like disrupt their Unholy Heats. So right now, I also don't need to get the Lantern down right now. It's usually a lot better if I get value from it coming into play. So if my opponent like plays like the Geist Blast the next turn here, discards a Phoenix, it's so much more valuable that I can just play a Lantern and exile the Phoenix immediately, and then hold it up to threaten something else later on. And also, it's on turn 3 where I really want to have it in play. But this turn actually I have a pretty nice line. I can just like play my land and just cast Deadly Dispute on my food token. No counterspells in the main deck for Simon, so I don't have to main phase that. Yeah, I can just do that. Can I make this actual full screen? Yeah, there we go. Much nicer. I just a tap that for Simon. As I said, turn 2 is usually a dead turn for the Phoenix deck, Because they really want to hold on to the cantrips for the turn 3, and they want to hold on to Expressive Iteration as well. Alright, so I get to make a treasure token and draw some cards. Not super expiring with like a Skulldon Familiar without an Oven yet and 2 lands. So that's not necessarily great. I might as well play out my Blooming Marsh now because it's gonna come into play tap later anyway. So like playing out Colony Garden now does not actually accomplish much, I don't think. Actually it might, right? Because I have so many other untapped lands. Yeah, so if I'm not using all my mana this turn. Okay, so I have to figure out what I'm doing, right? I can play Lantern and Cat, that's probably going to happen. Playing out Cat might be a little bit loose though, because of Pillar of Flame. So maybe it's, I actually think I'm not supposed to play out the Cat here. I do think I am supposed to play out the Lantern, definitely expecting a Phoenix to come down. Then the question is, am I playing out Squirrel? So if I play out Squirrel here, if the opponent tries to kill it, I can just sacrifice this treasure and then sacrifice Lantern to draw a card. But that way, I enable him to use his graveyard. So I might not actually want to do that. I do give him an opening. I do also get to draw a card. And as I stated, like some of the really scary cards are like Storming Entity usually. So if this was a usual Phoenix list, I think the correct line here is to play Lantern, Ravenous Squirrel, Colony Garden. And then if they try and kill Squirrel, I'll be okay to draw a card with Lantern, because it's not the end of the world if they get like a Phoenix in play. If they get 2, yeah, that's not great, but you still have Meathook Massacres to clear that up. And if they have the Storming Entity, you really want the pressure from Squirrel getting bigger earlier, and the extra card to like try and find me something good, like an Oven or an answer to the entity. Instead I play out the Lantern here, and which I definitely have to. And I also end up playing out my Familiar and my Blooming Marsh, but not the Squirrel. And yeah, I think against this version of the deck, I think I actually am not okay if the Squirrel tries to get killed and I just like sacrifice my Lantern to draw a card. I don't think I want that to happen, because this Phoenix is one of the best ways for him to win in game 1. So I think I'm okay with playing it a little bit slower. I have to be aware of that Crackling Drake though, but Crackling Drake is usually a bit easier to kill with Meathook Massacre sometimes. Not always. I guess both that and Entity are usually 4 toughness, because the Phoenix deck can often keep up an instant if they need to. And I also end up playing out my Familiar and not play out Colony Garden. And I think, yeah, that's just like a bunch of wrong things. The logic doesn't really hold, right? I'm thinking, well, the Blooming Marsh is gonna come into play tap later on anyway, so might as well play this untap now and then Colony Garden tap later. But that would kind of make sense if I could use the mana, if I were going to use this mana this turn, and I didn't have more untapped lands. But I do have more untapped lands. I can just play the Colony Garden now. And then if I need, because the issue is that next turn, what if I need to have the plant token in play and have 4 mana from my lands? I won't be able to do both, because I kept the Colony Garden in hand. But I will, no matter what, be able to play Colony Garden tap this turn and then an untapped land next turn, even though the Blooming Marsh is probably gonna rot in my hand. By the way, quick aside, I think the deck is not supposed to play 4 Blooming Marsh. I think you're supposed to play some of the slow lands as well. I don't know if it should be a 2-2 split or a 3-1 split or something like that, but definitely Blooming Marsh has been kind of a letdown in this deck. Like, especially with trade-off crumbs, like trying to hit untapped lands later, it just matters. So yeah, I end up playing some like the Familiar here, not the Ravenous Squirrel. I think I really dislike this play. I think I'm supposed to play Colony Garden, play my Lantern, probably not play my Squirrel. I think I'm probably correct in that against the specific version, and then like move on with my life. Because next turn I would be able to play the Squirrel and then use its ability to draw a card and sacrifice the treasure. So I could naturally protect it that way. Alright, so that's just Expressive Reservation this turn. Not doing much. Definitely expecting a Cranking Drake next turn. But yeah, now we can just attack for 1 with the Familiar. It did not get Pillar of Flame, so that's really nice. But it could have easily happened, right? If someone had a Pillar of Flame there, I think it would have just killed the cat. And the issue is now, you can see the issue with like now, like now I don't play out the Colony Garden again. Because I don't want to like, yeah, I don't think the logic makes sense, right? Because if I'm thinking that I don't want to don't want to need to sacrifice my treasure if I'm activating the squirrel. But I'm probably not activating the squirrel unless my opponent is tapped out, because I don't want them to respond with a shock. But if they are tapped out, then I'm just gonna like, as soon as they tap out for like, let's say an opt end of turn here, or consider, I would just respond by using the squirrel, making it 3/3 immediately, so that there's no shenanigans happening. And if that's the case, then it's just way better for me to play out Colony Garden and then sacrifice that instead of the cat. Or maybe if I want to play around Peel Off Flame, like maybe I do sacrifice the cat, but I'll still have the plant token lying around and the extra mana for later. So anyway, here is an opt end of turn, and I make sure to set a stop while it's resolving, a little bit dicey. But obviously I don't want my opponent to know that I'm going for this line while I go for it. And so there's an oven, which is excellent. And now my squirrel is a 3/3, so it's much harder to kill. I also could have played out a second lantern. That might have been another good line. Like either play out Colony Garden or second lantern, and that way I get to use my mana. I'm holding the second lantern because, again, I want to try and get value out of its ETB effect. But honestly, I think I'm just supposed to play it here. Having the 2 lanterns in play just like secures me even more against like me trying to exile a graveyard and then respond to an unholy heat happens. Stuff like that. So yeah, being a little bit loose with my mana here, but I'm not under very much pressure, so it's not really like I'm getting punished for it. Now I draw just Deadly Dispute, which is kind of fine. I can play the oven, and then like the plant token from Colony Garden will be something good to sacrifice, and I can get a huge attack in with the squirrel. Especially if I can get this to a 7/7, then like even at Delirium, Unholy Heat doesn't kill it, so it doesn't actually force me to crack Lantern necessarily. I'm just gonna sacrifice it to Deadly Dispute right away. I don't have anything better to sacrifice, and I'm probably gonna draw another way to make food, or another creature to sacrifice to Oven. So I'm not too worried that I can't get it back. And yeah, might as well also play out the Trail of Crumbs here. With the treasure, get an even bigger attack with the squirrel. The Dragonwage Channeler is probably not gonna chump block, but even if it does, it's not that bad. I'm definitely not gonna bring back my Familiar now, though. There's no reason to do that. But yeah, I might end up regretting that I don't have 2 lanterns to play, which I could have had, right? I could have just played the second lantern last turn, or played Colony Garden last turn, and then I would have had an extra mana this turn to play my lantern. Anyway, now it's really like, Simon has to like do something now, because I have my engine set up. I have my huge squirrel. There is one Brazen Borrower in the deck, which can deal with the squirrel, so that's something to be aware of. Now Delirium has been achieved. And there's a Fateless looting. Alright, definitely expecting at least 1 Phoenix to go into the graveyard to try and force my hand with the Lantern. Again, another good reason to like have 2. Because now when I crack the Lantern to exile the Phoenix, there could be an Unholy Heat in response to deal damage to my squirrel. And yeah, indeed, 1 Phoenix is added to the graveyard here. He still needs to cast another spell though, so he's tanking a bit here. And ends up going for a Pillar of Flame on my Browner Squirrel. I can say. Usually I'm like, you know, there's me tanking taking up time, but I actually don't know what to do when the opponent is tanking, because yeah, I've already said what I wanted to say here. And this is in like added speed. But he's trying to map out exactly what can go wrong. Also do remember that I have like 2 extra sacrifices available, so the squirrel is potentially a 9/9. Because I can still bring back the Familiar with the food, even though I don't get to draw card Betrayal. Wait, so here's Pillar of Flame on the squirrel. And this alerts me to a few things. I'm definitely thinking there's Unholy Heat. So what I'm thinking here is that this will trigger the Phoenix. Once I go to get rid of the Phoenix, there'll be an Unholy Heat on my squirrel. If I do the Lantern right now, though, he has to respond with Unholy Heat, and then I can bring back the Familiar, and my squirrel will actually survive that interaction. So I'm just going to use my Lantern right now instead of waiting. Because if I do it the other way and let Pillar of Flame resolve, I'm gonna let the Surveil resolve though. If I let the Pillar of Flame resolve first and then wait until begin combat, crack the Lantern, then he can respond to the counter from the Lantern and Unholy Heat. And I will only make be able to make my squirrel an 8/8 in response, where it will still die. So here he has to Unholy Heat in response. I let that happen. Let it get the counter. And then I bring back my familiar. Yeah, I actually don't think it matters much the all-out here this in, but... So we definitely did get a lot of good value out of that lantern there. The channeler is back down to start, but there's a second Unholy Heat. Okay, so... It seems like even if I had a second lantern in play, I could not have prevented this from happening, right? Because I would try to get rid of the Delirium for the first Unholy Heat, and then the second heat would just hit me. So, okay, the squirrel is dead. That's totally fine, right? Like, he doesn't have many resources left. We just drew another squirrel. We still have a lantern. We still have the cat oven thing going. So, this is just it's gonna be a breeze here. So, yeah, right now, I'm just gonna do cat oven things. I'm gonna attack with Familiar first. It's kind of a cheeky attack. Because if he blocks, I'm actually not interested in trading, because I want to make sure I have something to sacrifice to the oven. So maybe it would be okay with trading, and I just, like, get back Loris. I don't know. But I think I'm much more interested in just, like, growing the squirrel really big once again here. I get to play my second oven. And, like, you know, he doesn't even know the second lantern is coming here, right? So he just gets to see me, like, look at all these cards. I think I'm gonna get a goose here. Yeah, that's perfect. So that's a flying chump blocker. And this game is, like, very, very over at this point. I get to exile a card with lantern, sure. And maybe I can speed it up a little bit. I'm just gonna skip. So there's like a second channeler in play. There was like, I think, a looting flashback, or maybe there was an iteration being cast. And here's another looting. But even if there's some Phoenixes coming into play, it just doesn't matter, right? Like, I deal so much damage now with the cat oven combo. I can probably find a Meat Hook Massacre at some point, which will clear up the blockers for scrolls to be lethal. Or, and at least, you know, he has to kill me in like one turn. Or 2 turns at least. And I still have this lantern going on, which I just decide to sacrifice to save me a bunch of life points. Because, like, yeah, there's no way he can deal me 26 damage in 1 turn here. He has to chump block as well. He has to chump block my squirrel. Because it's also going to be lethal. So, I think this is about the point where Simon concedes, yeah, there's just no point in playing out this game. I even drew a second trail for value. Okay, so how do we sideboard? Well, the matchup is really good. So, we actually don't board much. The Cursebound Witch is like the worst card. Not really interested in a lot of the grindy effects you get from it. So I only bought into 2 Tormod scripts to try and make their, you know, their channelers, their unholy heats, and their phoenixes worse. And that's about it. What you could also have in a sideboard is some sort of like Doomblade, maybe actual Doomblade, to deal with a storming entity, because push does not kill that card. But yeah, we're not really interested in overboarding here, because our like main strategy just like works so well against what the Phoenix deck is doing, and they don't have like a good sideboard plan against us. They don't have, like, because they can't board in Graveyard Hate, right? The best thing they can do is boarding Pithing Needle, but we still have stuff like Mortality Spear and Presagio to kill it, so it's not even that bad. Right, so here's the Channeler. We keep it a nice hand here. It has Fatal Push, so. And then some squirrels. And it's gonna be hard to like save these squirrels unless I draw a cat, but yeah. Like, my hand is gonna be so much better if I draw a cat, because then I also enable the Mortality Spears. I do decide to just kill the Dragon Rage Channeler, and then I'm gonna hold my Tormod script, because I don't want to give away the info that I have it. Okay, so consider hit a Phoenix. That's pretty lucky, but that's okay. So now I definitely need to get my Tormod script in play, and the question is, like, do I play these squirrels or not? I don't think it would be the worst play in the world to play out both squirrels here and then, like, hold on to the oven. But I think I can get, like, a little bit of extra value if I just play out 1 oven and a squirrel. But I can also just hold on to my squirrels, right? That's also a legal line here. And maybe wait, like, maybe I draw a cat, maybe, you know, I get to draw something that can let me keep the squirrels against the shock effect. Not really sure that's correct though, because like there are going to be 4 Crackling Drakes in the post-board games, so I have to make sure that like at least like I'm getting somewhere. I was also thinking that like maybe now I can like, you know, play my 2 squirrels, and then if he tries to kill 1 squirrel, oh, okay, hold on, I'm gonna pause on this decision. Like even if he tries to kill 1 squirrel, I can, you know, I get to put a counter on the other one. But it doesn't really work when he has open mana, because I play 1 squirrel, and then I play the second one, and he responds by killing the first one. Yeah, I get to use my oven, but the second squirrel will still just be like a 1/1. And won't see the other one get sacrificed. So, since he's playing it slow, I decided that I can also play it slow here, just bring back Lurrus. Not really sure that's correct again, because of the threat of Crackling Drake, right? So, might be playing this a bit too slow. I'm not actually sure though, because yeah, he also, the fact that he doesn't have Stormwing just changes the entire matchup. Okay, and here's just flashback looting, right? So we both just dirtling and trying to set up. Really happy to see this happen. I guess he gets to get a little bit of value that I didn't get to use my Tormach Crypt earlier on, but that's alright. Alright, just discard land and Unholy Heat, play a land. Discarding Unholy Heat just like lets me know there's another Unholy Heat in hand, so we can't really like use that for much. And so the question is, now do I play out Squirrel or the Trail? Missing my land drops here is not something I'm super happy with, but I decided to play out 1 Squirrel, see if it gets killed. Not that it matters, and then I'm just gonna play out my Trail here. Be mana efficient, because again, if I play the second Squirrel, the first one will just get killed in response. And the reason I do decide to play out Squirrel here is that I think it's gonna be really hard for me to like save both my Squirrels from the Unholy Heats anyway. So now I'm just like forcing my opponent to use one. And like, I'm trying to be efficient with my mana. I also have Lurrus to buy back the Squirrel. So there's like a lot of small things going on here where, and the fact that I'm missing my land drops, that's like the biggest part of it, right? When you miss your land drops, you can't be mana inefficient. And Simon decides not to even kill my Squirrel here. He definitely was thinking about it, and he definitely has another Unholy Heat in hand, because you wouldn't discard the first one if you didn't have a second. Especially since I just put Lurrus in hand, right? And he's probably thinking that he needs to save that Unholy Heat for my Lurrus. That's probably what's going on. But here's Saheeli. That is the one of Planeswalker in the sideboard. Whenever you cast an Instant Sorcery spell, it gets to make a 1/1 token. And then also you get to copy something. Okay, so now he goes for the Unholy Heat. I guess that's part of it too. He decides to keep the Unholy Heat just to get an extra token from Saheeli. That makes sense. If the Saheeli gets too bad, like I have, you know, the Meathook Massacre to clear up the tokens and maybe attack Saheeli with a Squirrel. And I also have like Mortality Spear to just kill it if I need to. Here, I can decide if I like want to just use my Trail or if I want to play Squirrel. I think, honestly, the correct play here is not to play the Squirrel. I don't think that's correct. I think the correct play is just to use the Trail. And if that's what I'm doing, then maybe I don't just play the Blooming Moss first. But I don't know. You can definitely see the like disadvantage of playing out of playing so many marches in your deck, right? Because I would be able to play Squirrel and sacrifice a token here if I had the option to. Okay, so now's a Crackling Drake. Ideally, I want to hit another land, and then maybe I can Meathook Massacre to clear up that Drake before it's an issue. But we'll see exactly if I get to do that. Though right now, something is happening that I did not consider, is that Saheeli can like make copies of the Crackling Drake. And so it's only 4 points of damage right now. It's not that bad. I'm gonna gain 3 life here as well. But like next turn, that can be an issue. And I don't think I can wait that long with my Meathook Massacre. Plus, there is a chance that he bought it in negate to counter Meathook Massacre. Didn't hit a land, did hit a goose though, so that's at least something. Okay, and now I hit a land. So now I have to figure out like exactly how I want to get rid of this Drake and how I want to sequence it. I can just play Goose and then like Mortality Spear the Drake. That's one line. I can just Mortality Spear the Saheeli as well, and then Meathook Massacre away the Drake. That's probably like a better line, honestly. I can also utilize the gain life part, like the cost reduction on Mortality Spear, by cracking a food and then paying and then playing Mortality Spear. But I think that's just worse than getting the Goose into play. I think getting Goose into play matters a lot here. So I'm going to clear the Saheeli, so that threat is gone, and then next turn I'm going to be able to Meathook Massacre. Not really, this is a little bit dicey against the gate, as I mentioned earlier, but maybe we can, you know, maybe we can survive a few hits. The Crackling Drake is not that big right now. If he needs to like leave up mana, then like, you know, that's a way where we can maybe suss out that there is a negate in hand. And also, he's not that likely to bring it in necessarily. I don't think all Phoenix players bring in Negate in the matchup. But he was on the play this game, so he would get to like counter a Trail of Crumbs. And I know that the Channel Fireball team was bringing in Negate in their version of Phoenix. But they also had a different type of plan with like Hitotsugu consumes all. Anyway, there's an attack with both here. Might as well block the 1/1 because there's no like Spike Field hazards in that deck list. And yeah, the reason I killed Saheeli, by the way, like it's not quite the same amount of damage I get to save, unless there's a second Cracking Drake. But that way, it's just like it might end up being a continuous problem, right? If I just kill the Cracking Drake and he's gonna like refill the board, and then I Meathook Massacre and he's gonna refill the board, it's kind of annoying. But this Massacre can just take care of the Drake. And here's a second Drake, and I'm ecstatic to see this. I get to like activate my Goose, try and look for a land. I even just hit the land. That was really nice. So now we get to look for a different card, like a squirrel or something, or like a cat, which would be really nice here. And even though we missed some land drops earlier, now we're just caught right back up here. Get to play the Meathook Massacre. I'm expecting there's another Cracking Drake coming though, so we're definitely like not in the clear yet. Because I don't think he would have played the second Drake if he didn't have one, but he did not. He didn't have a second Drake. Okay, he's just playing a Phoenix here, leaving up mana. So, all right. Well, there's a Meathook Massacre that can clear away the Phoenix if I need to, but I don't need to do that right now necessarily. I can also just like develop a little bit to the board here. I can actually like play my squirrel and sacrifice a food to like draw a card. With the trail, it's kind of okay, but I think I'd rather just get lures online here. Even though the lures will definitely die. Yeah, I think this is wrong, honestly. I think I'm actually supposed to just play the lures now and play the Goose from the graveyard. I think I get more value from that. Because then like he has to kill the lures immediately, right? And then I sacrifice that, which is going to grow the squirrel. And like he also has to have an answer for squirrel immediately. Otherwise, things are going problem. And I can definitely use my Crypt to try and save my squirrel if I need to. So yeah, I think playing it this slow is kind of a bad line. I probably also, while he was tapped out that end of turn, I should have used the squirrel, sacrificing the food token. Because then I could use so much Crypt to save it from an Unholy Heat. So yeah, that was another small mistake there. He's tanking on the Expressive Iteration here. Yeah, it's not like you know the clock is insignificant here, but I'm feeling pretty safe, right? We're not gonna get ambushed by a bunch of Phoenixes. There's no Storm Drake either. The Storm Chaser Drake, is that what it's called? No, that's not what it's called. The Sprite Dragon. There's no Sprite Dragon in the deck. We see like a Dragon Rage Channeler played to the board that can get cleaned up by my Meathook Massacre. This Consider is interesting. But yeah, nothing else added to the board here. We're just taking 3 damage, and we're gonna gain a life back here end of turn. And now we also get to check if okay, he has an untapped land, sure. Because if he didn't have an untapped land there, we could actually get to check if he had the negate. Because I would get to like use my squirrel. And then like, if he has Unholy Heat, he has to respond to the scroll getting the counter. Otherwise, so much Crypt can like save it. And then he would be tapped out of countering Meathook Massacre. But right now, he kind of gets to do both. And yeah, it's definitely an issue. I should have just main faced that or like done this in my own instep when he was tapped out. So you wouldn't actually get to use Unholy Heat that way. And that could definitely matter here. Because like right now, if he has negate, it's not actually that good for me to play Massacre here. Okay, I do get another oven. I think that's wrong too. I should have definitely gotten Colony Garden there. I really need to hit the land drop, and the third oven doesn't do me any good. I draw Beseiju. Okay, that's at least a land as well. There's like no targets to hit in this matchup. So yeah, the question is, do I want to spend my entire turn using Meathook Massacre? Or do I want to play like Lurrus and then play maybe a squirrel from the graveyard? And then I can like sacrifice this food to gain life. That's kind of like an okay line too. But it's always awkward to play the Lurrus after, like before you play a Meathook Massacre. Whereas if I play Massacre here and it gets countered, then like maybe that's actually better for me. But on the other hand, this is also my only answer to a Cracking Drake right now. So I think in the end, like just playing out the Lurrus here and then playing out a Squirrel probably is the better line. And then I just don't play this other oven. I could also play Goose, that's a chump blocker potentially. But I think it's kind of better to play the Squirrel here, right? Because it's probably gonna grow. Like my Lurrus will definitely die. And I think getting those counters on the Squirrel matters a lot, especially if I plan to cast Meathook Massacre. Though having this extra food production definitely also matters with the trail, so I'm not 100% convinced, but I'm definitely not dying to like a second Phoenix here. That's not really the case. Also, if I had played a Squirrel, actually I could like try and maybe kill the Dragon Rage Channeler with my Tormod Crypt. Because it has to attack once it's Delirium. And then like the Squirrel would just get to block it. So he would have to have an extra removal spell in order to not let it get eaten. Whereas I can't do that here. I wouldn't, like, even if he didn't have a Sorcery Speed removal spell for Lurrus, I would not have been able to go for it. Because if he just has like an Unholy Heat, then I kind of wasted my Tormod Crypt. Alright, hit a second Squirrel, hit a second Goose. Yeah, so we just take the damage here. Even then I still feel pretty good about this spot. But here's a Cracking Drake with the mana up for negate again. So the past 3 turns he has left mana up, like 2 mana up suspiciously. So I'm definitely thinking that that could be a negate. I do have a second Goose though, so unless he has 2 pieces of interaction, I can actually block this Drake. So maybe I don't need to play into the negate right now. I decided that I'm going to try and like bait it out with like a trail. If he negates this, I can still go Meathook Massacre. And if it doesn't negate it, I think it would be reasonable for Simon to like not negate this trail here. But then I get to put myself in a pretty good spot, right? I need to make sure that I still have mana up to like crack a food to gain life in case I need to do that. Going to 13 here wouldn't really matter though, because yeah, so I don't need to have that much mana up. Played out this oven. The oven doesn't do anything on the board though. That was just a wrong play. But I should have played out my lantern instead, and then left up that extra mana to like use my trail. But getting rid of that Eyelight Phoenix is kind of neat, and like now I'm really secured. I guess also like the fact that, you know, I can make the Dragon Rage Channeler only a 1/1. Maybe going to being able to go to 13 would have mattered. No, it wouldn't have. Yeah, there's no way. Because if you can kill both my keys, I just lose here. So this is definitely a bit of a risk compared to just playing the Meathook Massacre, and then if that gets negated, I can still play out my Goose and it would not be that bad. But he would also get to, like, you know, look at another card with Channeler. But now here's Expressive Iteration and I'm starting to sweat here. Like, it's pretty dangerous, right? I know I can definitely die now. And maybe I should just play out the Massacre. You know, he might not have the gate. He might have just been bluffing it. Like, who knows? And now I might not get to find out. Okay, so Kensan does not do anything. Here's another Channeler. Okay, so that means he doesn't have lethal yet, but he's still looking for that other removal spell. But here's Opt, and he gets to look at like 4 cards to try and find it. Like, it's pretty dangerous. Okay, puts Fadeless Looting in the graveyard. That's actually kind of good for me. Oh, and then puts the Savera in the graveyard, because that would be a 4 mana card that does bounce a Goose, but I have 2 keys, and he would not have enough mana to do like that plus another removal spell. So actually, if he hadn't played the Channeler, I probably would have died if he had a way to kill a Goose in hand, which I assume he has. Or at least that he would, yeah, have found it by now. So there's a Phoenix coming back. We definitely can't allow that, so we're just cracking our Tormod Crypt here. Exile that entire huge graveyard. And now both are coming in. Okay, no removal spell. Whew. Dodge that bullet. Definitely played that maybe a little bit dangerous. I'm not really sure, but It definitely puts us up in a good spot. Okay, I forgot to use my oven there, though. That's probably fine. And now... Yeah, there's no burn spells at instant speed, so I can't really die here. I can just, like, activate my trade-off crumbs twice. And there's the cat. Okay, so cat is a really good draw. It's a lot of damage right here. If I play the Meat Hook Massacre... the cat might just be lethal by itself right now. Oh, there's a Meat Hook in play already, right? So, so like each cat like deals 1 damage when it comes into play. Each oven activation is like 2 more damage each. So this is like 8 damage already on the board, which is not quite lethal yet, but it doesn't take much. Like maybe I can find a Fraction Tower, or maybe this Meat Hook Massacre for 1 can clear up my cats. And that would also be an plus my goose. That would be like an extra point of damage. So I'm just gonna like try and start the train here. Start looking for things. And see if I can just make lethal right now, because that would make things a lot easier. Okay, so there's the tower. That's really good, because with all this extra food, like that's just, you know, an extra 2 points of damage. And an extra look at other cards. In this oven, I think actually like the tower and the oven combined makes this just lethal right now. So that was kind of a swing, right? It looked like we might have been losing, might have put myself in a lot of risk there. I'm not sure if it's correct to play around the gate the way I did, but the fact that he's still leaving up that mana, so I don't think I would ever know. But I'm trying to bait with this oven, because like now, you know, even if he countered the oven there, this Meat Hook Massacre would have been lethal. But he didn't counter the oven, and yeah, now I can just. I could have also played my other familiar, but like right now it's kind of trivial. I just have like very easily lethal. But yeah, I know it didn't look like, you know, it was going to be a game where I had lethal with just that, but I did. And yeah, I'm going to play the Meat Hook Massacre here, because I know that I can respond with lethal damage. Oh, okay, I don't know how I'm actually doing this. It doesn't really matter, I guess. And yeah, that's the last ping. But yeah, 12 damage out of nowhere is definitely possible with this deck once you get like all these engines online. Also with all 4 ovens, of course. But I was pretty late to find my familiar, so sometimes that happens, right? Where you like hit all 4 ovens before the familiar. Anyway, I beat Simon Görtzen. That was a really tight game. And yeah, maybe I made it tighter than I needed to, but it's kind of a weird game, right? Like the early game was just so awkward for both of us. Which definitely like favors him, right? Because his deck has like better cards to play that just immediately impact the board, whereas I need to like slowly build up to something. So if I have an awkward start, I can like you know, all my cards cost 1 or 2 mana. So if I don't have a good start, it means like I don't have the good cheap cards, right? And it's going to, the cards by themselves are just not that impactful. And my advantage is that I'm going to have better starts usually than the Phoenix deck does. But we managed to scrape it out, dodge that second removal spell. I would assume there was 1 removal spell in that hand. But it definitely seemed like there wasn't a gate, right? Because if there wasn't removal, like what would it be? And it's very possible that if I'd gone for the Meat Hook Massacre, it wouldn't have been so good for me. Not really sure. Though I still would have had like the goose to chump block with, and I would have the second trail, and then maybe I can rebuild, so like, maybe I can actually still find lethal in time. Not actually sure, but anyhow. This is how the event went. On day 1, I'm 5-2. Really happy with that score. That's my best day 1 result so far in a set championship. And yeah, I mean, I had my sights set to go like 9-6 in a tournament. But right now I'm thinking, maybe I can do even better than that. Maybe I can even top 8 this thing. Who knows? So we'll have to wait and see about that. But the fact that I only had to go like 4-4 on day 2 to fulfill my goal is also a really huge relief, right? Just, you know, at this point I feel like I'm in a really good spot for the World Championship race. So, tune in tomorrow, right? As if this is just like a forthcoming series. Tune in next time for the day 2 analysis. Actually, maybe I should put these up like, instead of like dumping all of them at the same time, I just like post them when I finish them. And then people can watch them when they have... Because people usually say they watch, like, not all my stuff at once anyway. So, like, I might as well post what I'm doing. Oh, okay. I'll probably do that tomorrow, huh? Which, you don't know that's tomorrow. But, okay. Okay. I'm gonna end this video right now before I end up talking myself into a knot here. But tune in next time for the start of day 2.